Hi, good day. Ken here. So today we're going to talk about Azure DevOps pipelines and particularly how we can use it for Fabric or Microsoft Power BI deployment. We want to show you today how to enable it, what are the prerequisites in order to automate Power BI deployments, let's say from development to test or test to prod, without having to manually deploy each and every change and do it by batch in a single pipeline. So let's go. So one important thing is we need to have a service principal. This service principal will be used to authenticate to our Power BI instance, and this will act as our authorization so that we can make the changes in our deployment pipelines automatically. So we need to secure an app ID and also the tenant ID and a secret. And those three things we will need to configure later on in the pipeline. But also, one important note is that we need to grant the service principal the necessary permissions in order to have access to the pipelines. So it needs access to read write for the pipelines, dataset read write all, and tenant read write all permission. And don't forget to grant consent once you've added those permissions. And also make sure to keep your secret value, let's say in Key Vault, if you have that, but that is optional. You can keep it in a secured location so that you can later access it. All right. So the next thing we need to do is we need to grant access to that service principal to the workspaces that's part of the deployment pipeline. So in my case, I have three workspaces that uh, represents my three tiers, which is development, test, and production. So, like any other member, just add the service principal to the workspace, ideally as an admin to all three, so that it can facilitate the automation. So that's one important step that we need to follow. Okay, another important thing is we need to have a tenant settings to be modified in our Power BI tenant in order to make this work. So there are two settings that we need to be enabled if it's not yet already. Number one is this admin API. Under admin API settings, we need service principals can access read-only admin APIs, and we need to have our service principal be added here as part of a security group. So if we don't want it to be enabled for everyone in the organization, what we can do is create a new security group in Microsoft Entra and add the service principal inside of that, and that's what we will use to include in the specific security groups. And the same thing goes for this setting, which is called service principals can use Fabric APIs. We also want to enable that just for a subset of the organization or a specific list of security groups, which we done here. So once those two settings are enabled and also the service principal added, we should be able to start building our pipelines. Let me show you how this works first. So I have this workspace, which as you can see serves as my development workspace. Now imagine, collaborators or developers making changes in the development stage, and basically as an administrator or as part of the software release team or release software reliability team, you want to promote these changes or basically um, pull requests. You want to push it to a higher environment, let's say test, which is in my case this, oh not this one, this workspace. As you can see here, you want all of those changes to be pushed to test in one batch. At the moment, how it works is that you have to select those changes, right? So in my case, if I want to promote some of the objects here, I can see that There are already indicators in the new deployment pipelines UI that tells me as an administrator which ones have changes. So I can select those, right, visually and click on deploy. Now, what we want to do as part of our enhancement is to automate those kinds of things. So we don't have to manually uh, do that. And that's through what we call Azure DevOps pipelines. So I've created a pipeline here specifically pushing objects from dev to test. And let me show you that real quick. When I go to Azure DevOps, basically I can run this pipeline that I created, and that will do the promotion. This will do the promotion for me automatically. There are just some parameters that you want to indicate here. So, for example, you need to specify like the pipeline, the deployment pipeline ID that this will refer to, and then you want to specify the stage wherein the changes will be pushed to. So in our case, it's test, and some other parameters that we can update as well. So what you do is just simply run that, click on run, and then the pipeline will automatically detect, scan the development workspace, and then promote all of the changes to test um, in a few clicks of a button. Okay, so now the pipeline has successfully run, indicated by the green checks. You should now be able to see if there are changes that were deployed to your test environment, right? What we can do is simply demonstrate a small change here in my sample deployment pipelines. So as I said earlier, for example, this is my development workspace. So if I change something here, let's say I just changed it from version 3 to 4 and save it, right? Normally, if we use the deployment pipelines, right, um, we can already see um, here that this object is now different from the source, which is our dev workspace. Here it says version 4 from the source stage, and this selected stage, it's only showing version 3. So it's easy to look at it if there's only just a few items, but imagine there's a lot of objects being deployed to your workspaces. You don't want to do this manually. So what we'll do is we will rerun the pipeline and show you how that change will appear in the test workspace. So let's just wait until all of the jobs are done. Okay, there you go. The pipeline runs successfully. So what we can do is we'll just refresh this um, browser just to check. And now when we go to our test workspace, you see that it already detected that the source and test stage, the dev and the test stage are now synced. They're now the same. And what you can do is, just go to your workspace itself, and then you can see that the test stage already has this report showing as version 4. So another good feature about Azure DevOps pipelines is that we can schedule how often this runs. So imagine, for again, an organization who handles a lot of deployments, a good thing to have is to enable a scheduled run of the pipeline. So what I'm showing you here is the same pipeline I demoed earlier, but if you look here in the scheduled runs, this particular pipeline has already an existing schedule. So um, you can do this like on a daily basis or an hourly basis if you want. But just to show you how that works, so again, I go to the pipeline, and what I do is I edit the pipeline, and then I go here in the triggers section. And when I go to the trigger section, you will see that there is an item here under scheduled. So if I click that, it will show you that this pipeline will run from Monday to Friday at a particular time that I indicated. And if you want to add some filters to how it runs, you can also do that, right? So I didn't bother because there's only one pipeline in this repository. So yeah, this is a good way to make sure that the changes that are being deployed to your workspaces are scheduled to be pushed, right? And you don't have to manually do it um, compared to just using the deployment pipelines in Power BI by itself. So yeah, just a very helpful feature here that I wanted to show you guys. Another important item that we need to discuss is the configuration or the settings of the objects that are deployed. So as you can see here, I'm highlighting a particular semantic model that was pushed by the automation script. And as you can see here, the ownership of this object belongs to the service principal. In my case, it's called Pipeline Automation Power BI, which I showed you earlier. So um, the advantage of this is that, you know, with this in place, you don't have to worry about credentials issue or someone leaving the organization who previously configured it and now that person's gone. In this case, service principal ensures that there will not be any issue in terms of the account that that object is tagged under. But there is some administration that needs to happen in the context of ensuring that the service principal is not expired or the key that you generated has been refreshed. But that can be arranged through a key vault or through another automation process in order to keep the secrets and the keys to be always enabled.